Hello, everybody. We are so grateful to have you here with us today. Appreciate you spending some valuable time with us. We've got some great information to share with you. I think we'll make it worth your while. My name is Dave Taylor. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Impartner. Impartner is the leading provider of partner and ecosystem management solutions on a global scale. I'm so pleased to be joined today by Kathy Contreras, VP and Principal Analyst at Forrester. Kathy, thank you for taking time with us today.
I'm excited to be here, Dave.
Good. Well, only because this is a topic that we both feel extremely passionate about. So we love talking channels. We love talking go-to-markets. We love talking indirect. So this should be good. Let's go ahead and dive in. We've got some presentation materials that we want to kind of walk through with you. I have the opportunity to share just a little bit with you about Impartner, about what it is that we do. So let's dig in. And as we go, what we're going to spend most of our time on is the ever-present question of how do you, as a partner or an ecosystem professional, how do you document and prove to the organization the impact that you're making on the company? So that's really what we'll spend our time on today. As I mentioned, Impartner has a whole suite of solutions for partner management, ecosystem management, going to market through indirect channels from a marketing perspective. We call it the partner journey, the recruiting and onboarding of partners, the building and managing of pipeline, the tracking and generation of opportunities. And then what we'll spend most of our time on today is the measuring the impact that's made, being able to track the impact, measure it, and report it. And Kathy has some great information about why that's so important. So let's keep going. Impartner, for those of you who are unfamiliar with us, we always do very well in Analyst analyses. Forrester rated us very highly in their 2020 wave on the partner relationship management area. And we think there's new results soon to come out from Forrester and other analyst groups. But we also always do very well in customer reviews. And we value the customer reviews just as highly because these are comments and reviews from your co-journey partners, your fellow sojourners on the path to generating ecosystem value. And because of their experience, they've been willing to jump onto some of these review sites like G2 and give us good results. So we look to these people to kind of validate our approach, and we always hear really positive feedback from them. Go ahead. There's so many metrics that people use to track and report on the impact that the indirect go-to-market team is making on the business. We don't have time to dig into many of these, but in a recent survey of our customer base, they reported to us that in the first year of use, they found on average a 32.3% increase in revenue. And then interestingly, also a 41% increase in partner engagement. And it's sometimes tough to measure engagement, but this is self-reported from our customers. And so this is equivalent to kind of generating a lot of mind share. That they track it through partners that are logging into some kind of portal system, or that are registering deals or accepting leads or running marketing campaigns. So big increases in partner engagement, big jumps in revenue, and a lot of other metrics that ramp up. Go ahead. But what we're going to spend time on today is how to attribute some of that revenue, how to attribute not just revenue, but the overall impact that you're making. And Kathy is going to talk to us a little bit about how you measure that, the importance of measuring it, the importance of getting that tracked and reported accurately using modern appropriate models for it. So Kathy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dave. And I'm so excited to share insights on mastering partnership value to measure impact. This is an area I am extremely passionate about, and because many of my clients are struggling with this, right? They're looking at how do they do this well? How are they truly recognizing, tracking, and measuring the true impact that partners have on the business? This is a topic that has been plaguing partner and ecosystem channel leaders for decades, and it's an ongoing challenge related to partner attribution. What I hear from many B2B partner leaders is that the attribution models that they are forced to adhere to cause challenges to their organization. Now, what may be surprising to you is I actually hear these challenges from others as well. Have conversations with CMOs, CROs, revenue and operations leaders looking to solve for the challenges of misaligned partner attribution. So, as these organizations look to address this challenge, they will need to assess how significant that effort will be. Today, I'm going to share with you some data and insights from Forrester on the current state of partner ecosystems, what we're seeing in the market. I'm going to also introduce you to the challenges and negative impact of outdated attribution models. You may already be feeling some of this pain yourself. There might be some other things that you haven't seen yet that might be valuable. And finally, I'm going to provide the steps required to plot the path to successfully measure partnership impact in your business. If you can move forward. What we know is that the revenue generated by partners is significant to most B2B organizations. A Forrester study reveals that over 70% of organizations reported that 40% or more of their revenue is directly attributed to their partners and their indirect routes to market. As we look at another data source in the next slide, what we see is that the current percentage, if we look at the next slide, the current percentage of the indirect revenue within B2B revenue streams is significant, and that is expected to continue to rise. In fact, 60% of B2B channel and partner leaders forecast their indirect revenue beyond what we just saw, that 70% that recognizes as 40% or more of their revenue stream, will continue to rise in the next 12 months. Now, while this is go ahead.
Sorry, Kathy. One of the things I love about this, as we were talking through this earlier, in 2023, kind of the year of living efficiently, we love the way that people are turning to the indirect go-to-market model as a way to kind of ride out current, market conditions. People worry about recessions. People worry about trying to be efficient with spend. And it looks to us like people are finding the indirect go-to-market path as being a way to really maximize revenue growth during these years.
Well, I think it's really important, and I don't have a slide to share with you on this today, but I can share with you the data in terms of what we've seen. A recent buyer study that actually reviewed over 10,000 B2B buyers, and again, this was conducted very recently, indicated that 69% of those buyers looked to a third party, an indirect route to market, or channel partner for their purchase source. So it's not just that companies are optimizing for the opportunity that exists in the partner ecosystem for generating revenue. They're also starting to recognize that buyers are making that choice. They're defining their needs, their preferences, and often those preferences, nearly 3/4 of the time, are actually leaning towards a partner purchase. As we look to the next slide, what's really interesting as well is that we're not just seeing an expected growth in terms of revenue, but we're also seeing as growth is anticipated in the size of the organization as well. So that number of partners the organization work with are increasing. In fact, nearly 50% of channel and partner leaders expect growth in the size of the partner ecosystems as well. I think what's really interesting here is if we look at this, and this is where the term ecosystem comes in play, the next slide highlights the growth that is anticipated across both transacting and non-transacting partners. And so it spans the entire spectrum of partner ecosystem partners. And this is going to look at, if we look at where the highest growth is expected and anticipated by channel and partner leaders, what we see is that 51% are expecting a growth in their strategic alliance partners. More than 45% are expecting a growth in their technical partners. So it's not just those that historically transacted, but also the non-transacting partner growth as well. What's really important as organizations look to establish an ecosystem economy, which has become critically important to the future of B2B growth. 67% of B2B channel and partner leaders report that the orchestration of new partner ecosystems is very important or absolutely essential to their organization. The tremendous growth and increasing importance of partner ecosystems in B2B organizations will require these organizations to redesign or re-architect their attribution models to fully recognize, measure, report key partnership values to the business. I think one of the problems that need to be recognized is revealed on the next slide, and that is that really traditional sourced attribution models are obsolete. They assume that attribution can be sectioned and divided directly into three categories, those being marketing sourced, sales sourced, and partner sourced. Basically, this model attributes revenue achievement to a single entity as if they were completely independent of each other in isolated silos or vacuums, which is just not the case. These out-of-date attribution models assume that one group is solely responsible for success. And of course, if that was true, you could completely eliminate one function over another. Why do you need marketing? Why do you need sales? Or even worse, perhaps you just retire or fire all your partners. Right? The models that most organizations look at for attribution is flawed. There are actually a number of challenges that are caused by this. And if we look at the next slide, we're going to highlight some of those. Traditional sourced attribution models only recognize sourcing as a measure or metric of value. They do not provide any recognition for the efforts required beyond sourcing to drive revenue success. For example, they do not account for brand awareness, nurture efforts, lead qualification, opportunity management, or the involvement of buying groups and influencers in the buyer's journey. Source attribution is exclusive to the new buyer, which means it does not account for customer value and customer retention impact. It provides no attribution for customer revenue, such as upsell or cross-sell. And actually, this is a massive oversight, as our research reveals that the customer revenue represents over 70% of the average B2B revenue stream. In fact, that data is sometimes as high as 77%. So it's not even putting an eye on the majority source of revenue through B2B organizations. For partner ecosystems, source attribution models are even more distressing. They do not reflect the B2B partner ecosystem business reality. Attribution is tied only to new buyer revenue, and it ignores any partner value beyond resell. We can all agree that this probably isn't the best approach, but we might want to step back and think about why it matters. What is the impact? If we look at the next slide, what you'll see is the negative impact of misaligned attribution is actually extremely troubling. It distorts what is really driving B2B direct and indirect revenue and strategic growth for these organizations. It can foster cross-functional resentment. Again, if one organization is getting credit over another, but they were both equally involved in success, that demotivates collaboration, and it can negatively impact motivation of the employees and their satisfaction working within the business. It also invalidates customer obsession. As organizations are moving to become more customer obsessed and customer focused, having a focus just on net new buyers actually eliminates that focus of value and success within their install base. It can impede customer satisfaction in the scores. And it hides partner value from the organization by boldly camouflaging partner efforts and their impact to the business. It also negates the importance of suppliers and partners teaming together to drive customer value. And lastly, I think one of the most dangerous potential that it has is in misdirecting future focus and critical investments based on this very myopic, forced view of artificial data. It's not giving a full view of what's happening to drive business success within and outside of the ecosystem, which is forcing future investment decisions against a bad series of data. So I think what's really interesting, and in a way is relieving for me to see as a partner ecosystem marketing analyst, is that this is not just a challenge for partner ecosystem marketing. It's an issue across the entire B2B organization, and the experts agree. My esteemed colleagues in the revenue operations and marketing operations services assert that sourced attribution models are obsolete for B2B marketers as well. Their claims are very strong. You'll see some of them highlighted here, stating that sourced attribution is not working and that it's irrelevant, that it undermines alignment, and that it does more harm than good. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is that marketing sourcing is a losing hand for CMOs. They say very boldly, this is not the way for organizations to evaluate success. They state this because it reduces marketing's value to a single effort of sourcing. And in reality, businesses need marketing to deliver more than just sourcing. Overall, they're in complete agreement that B2B organizations need a new attribution methodology. While I wish we could wait for CMOs to solve this problem and marketing operations leaders to drive this action forward, we actually cannot wait for them to address their attribution challenges. Now is the time to develop a blueprint for how to measure an impact of your partner ecosystems for your focus part of the business. So as we move to the next slide, you'll see that to do this, you must follow 4 distinct steps. That's to discover, define, assign, and align. To do this, you must follow these steps succinctly from one to the next and do some of the homework required in order to set the groundwork for what you need to measure impact. The first step is to discover. If your organization has a documented partner ecosystem strategy, while you may assume everyone should start with a strategy first before they build their ecosystem and determine what types of partners they should engage with, what I find again and again is that is absolutely not the case for most organizations. If you have one, fantastic, and we're going to spend a moment looking at that. But if you don't have one, something you might consider is working collaboratively across the organization to establish an understanding of why the ecosystem looks like it does, what your future intent might be. The second step is to define, and that's to define the partner classifications within your ecosystem. Third step is to assign or identify the key values for each partner classification defined in that previous defined step. And finally, the last step is to align metrics and measures of success for each partner value to develop true partner attribution. As I mentioned before, you'll see in the next slide that most organizations actually do not have a documented partner ecosystem strategy. So one of the first steps is to start by discovering that strategy. B2B partner ecosystem strategies are not singular. You'll see here increased revenue is listed as the only value of interest, but that is absolutely not the case for every organization I've worked with over my many years as an analyst. Partner ecosystem strategies are multidimensional, and they include various corporate motivations, purposes, and intentions, and may span across both short-term and long-term business objectives. As you see some of these strategy goals and objectives be built out on this slide, what you'll notice a major problem is that these attribution models really only factor in revenue, and specifically resale revenue and sourced resale revenue, as the only value to be measured. Whereas the motivation behind nearly all B2B partner ecosystem strategies are far more diverse. They include acquiring new markets and customers, expanding geographic reach, gaining competitive advantage, extending their product lines, accelerating their time to market, acquiring success and access to new technologies and IP, or even extending their reach in terms of headcount and expertise. It can include sharing costs, increasing profitability, mitigating risk, and many, many more elements of strategy. So as organizations start to think about the values their organizations and their partners provide from the ecosystem, one step is to understand and start to document what is the original intent or partner ecosystem strategy that led to the types of partners you work with within the business. And if this hasn't been defined, spending some time cross-functionally to make that definition well-defined. The next stage and step is to define your partner ecosystem. And if we look at the opportunities there on the next slide, you'll see that there are 3 classification types you can leverage to do this. Micro partner classification is the most common. This involves defining your partner ecosystem by the individual partner types or partner business models. Macro classification, the second classification type, involves defining your partner ecosystem by partner groups. For this classification, multiple partner types are combined within a broader classification or grouping. And finally, the third is partner value classification. It involves defining your partner ecosystem by the unique partner values across that ecosystem. Regardless of which classification type you leverage, this is an essential step required for establishing business impact measurement success. It's also critical for establishing alignment across the entire business of what your partners actually do, and what your makeup of your ecosystem looks like. In the next few slides, I will share an example of each one of these classification types so you can visualize how to do this within your partner ecosystem. An organization partner ecosystem may be classified by partner business model, as you see here. For some high-tech ecosystems, this may include alliances, technical partners such as ISVs or IHVs, applications, or even IoT partners. It may include distribution partners, volume resellers, and direct market resellers like DMRs, solution providers or value-added resellers, managed service providers, system integrators, and even referral partners. When defining your partner ecosystem by this micro classification level, as shown in the example here, it is critical to understand and recognize that a growing number of partners now have more than one business model underneath their business. And so the hybrid business model is essential to recognize. They may have two or more classifications that represent the value they offer to the market.
We also do see sometimes, sorry, Kathy, I don't mean to. We also do see sometimes that one partner plays different roles on an almost deal by deal basis. Somebody that's a service provider on one can be, a post sales deployment partner on the next deal. So that's so critical.
Yeah, and if, for example, you might find that they might, in one environment, it's a great call out. In one environment, they may, it's an example, system integrator. System integrator may actually represent three of these business models. They are a system integrator. They may have built up their own managed service offering as an MSP offering, and they may also have created their own unique technology to solve common business challenges for their clients, and actually are also serving as a tech partner in that regard. And depending on the buyer need that they're trying to solve for, they may actually, in one instance, only serve as a solution provider or system integrator. But in the very next customer deployment, they may actually serve in all three formats. So that's a really great call out, Dave. It's not going to be constant across every engagement. We actually saw this a lot with the advent of cloud computing and SaaS-based solutions. Many suppliers went to their partners, specifically their value-added resellers and solution providers, and said, we would like you to stand up a managed service offering, right? They saw that as an opportunity to extend their product to a broader series of buyers. And so many did. And so in that case, in some cases, that transformation happened where they kept their service provider, their solution provider business, because their buyers and customers were looking for them to serve those needs, but they now also have a managed service offering that supports a new series of buyers or has transformed some of those buyers to that level. So
it really talks to the emergence of marketplaces as being so critical, because it really is that kind of coming together place where where goods and services can be discussed, assembled, overall solutions put together. Yeah, that's great.
So I think one final note on this, I actually am very strong advocate of using this type of classification example. You'll see why in the future. What is very critical, though, is that this type remains relevant as long as that hybrid consideration is both recognized as you map it out. As we look at the next classification type, what we have seen is that organizations, partner ecosystems, may be also classified by partner group, whereas multiple partner business models are combined within a broader group or macro classification. In this example, the primary macro classifications are build, sell, and service. But what we find is that these three groups or categories are really too limiting for partner ecosystems. The organizations that have adopted this approach for partner program design efforts have actually needed to expand their macro classifications to include a fourth, a fifth, and in some cases, a sixth classification. You'll see there's no commonality of what they use for those fourth, fifth, or sixth classification. So there are some that you'll see might use the word deliver or influence or license or manage or run or others. They all have sort of unique, definitions there. Currently, there is no common agreement on what those other classifications are titled. As we look to the final way that organizations can classify the values and look at classifying their partners in the ecosystem is actually by looking at value classification examples. And so it's really thinking about what values do your partners offer related to your products to your B2B buyers and customers. Most partner business models are multidimensional. and they extend beyond a single value. So this is an advanced approach to micro partner classification. It really addresses the inherent challenges of that previous approach. It recognizes the partners do not fit into a single box, but rather that partners may be recognized on the totality of the values they offer. In this example, the partner value classifications do include those first three of build, sell, and service. But in this example, they also extend and include market, source, and support. As well, they include varying definitions or sub-values and degrees of value underneath each classification. So if you're going to think about using the macro classification, I would almost immediately suggest you consider expanding your focus to the value classifications, and you'll see why as we show some more examples. The next step is actually to assign the different values to these formats. And so as you look at the next slide, what you'll see is I've taken the micro partner classifications, or looking at them by business model or partner type, and start to progress to this third step. The key there is to assign key values for each partner classification. So between this slide and the next two, I'm going to assign key values to each of the three classification types and the examples introduced in the defined step. In this example, key values are assigned by those micro partner classifications. Again, the partner types or business models of alliances, tech partners, distributors, MSPs, solution providers. The green check mark indicates a constant value for the partner type, whereas the gray check mark indicates a variable value. So if you look at the different values at the top on that first row, you'll notice that some of them have a check mark that's either light green or light gray. That light gray indicates that some partners of that type have that value or make that commitment, and others may not. Whereas the green means it's a constant value for any partner within that definition. What you're trying to determine here is whether or not these partners, by their classification type, tend to market your offerings to buyers and customers. Do they recommend versus resell your products? Do they provide services such as integration or implementation? Do they offer a managed service offering? Or do they provide frontline support or own the customer post-sale for retention, renewal, upsell, and cross-sell, are really serving to provide that customer value post-transaction? Alternatively, do the partner manage sub-partners like a distributor or master agent would? Or do they develop their own products like a tech partner? Do they commit to joint go-to-market, co-marketing, co-selling? And do they offer other key values that maybe aren't listed on this sheet? As you see in this example, all partner business models can span multiple key values. And that's really important for organizations to understand, because it does have an impact, not only how you measure their success, but actually how you equip them to be successful. As we look at the next example of how we assign values to a classification, in this example on this slide, we've looked at the key values assigned by macro partner classification. And this immediate sort of will make it clear why I'm not a big fan of macro partner classifications. What you'll see here is that the challenge of this classification type is that if you structure your partners within these groups of build, sell, service, for these examples, it collapses various unique partner business models with distinctly different values into a single group or classification. If you're only determining partners and grouping them in this group, you're really not providing a right identification and a clear insight into what they're really doing beyond that initial intelligence of that grouping of sell, build, or service. The goal of simplification that many organizations attempted with this classification type unfortunately results in hidden, unrecognized, and often unmeasured partner value. For that reason, I would suggest as you define your partner ecosystems, leverage either the micro partner classification I just shared, or the one I'm going to share next, which is the partner value classification model. So in this final example of the third step, to establish measurement of partner impact, key values are assigned by the partner value classification. In this example, you can either assign the values for the partner business model that we identified up front, or you can actually look at assigning this for each individual partner within your ecosystem. The key values represent the top row, the build, market, sell, source, service, and support in this example. And as an organization starts to build this out, they can indicate the sub values under each check mark. And this is really critical because while you'll see check marks across many for marketing, the level of marketing they do may just be distinctly different. While tech partners and integrator partners' key values include that market as well as sell, those are listed as variable values and are specific to those partners that commit to co-marketing or co-selling because they're not marketing and selling your products, they're marketing and selling their own, ideally with you. And while service providers like MSPs do build, market, sell, and support your offering, it's actually more of an OEM light arrangement where they're doing that for their product offering, the branded managed service offering that they bring to the market. So essential for the success of this classification type is the recognition that an individual partner business model is not limited to a single value, and that some of those values are going to have some caveats on them in terms of whether they're doing it directly or with you for the co-marketing, co-selling motions, for example, especially as leverage for use in partner program design. So the final step is one that I think is where this all sort of brings to light why the challenges of current attribution models are really challenging and problematic for partner ecosystems. This final step is to establish partner impact measurement and to align metrics and measures of success for each partner value. The matrix highlights how this can be accomplished in alignment to the micro partner classification. This example is where I mapped the partner ecosystem by partner business model. And if we look at this, and I don't know how clearly you can see it on your own, so I'll just talk through a few of them. Tech partners, for example, develop their own products and may provide referrals or engage in joint go-to-market efforts. So aligned metrics for this partner type is going to include the number of products they have certified or launched into the market, and potentially the amount of revenue the partner has referred or influenced to your business. For this organization, this measurement impact of the partner's product value to their own go-to-market efforts. So as you think about those tech partners, their products can actually either drive your success in industry or market or provide additional value to buyers and customers who are looking at your solutions. As we look at these, for example, the integrator partners, system integrators provide a service. It's their own product that they're bringing to the market. They may also involve themselves in referrals or influence the revenue, and they may commit to joint go-to-market. So you may be looking at other values, much as their service revenue, the customer satisfaction of the services they deliver, and again, the referral or influence revenue that they produce for your business. As we align metrics with partners' value, it becomes impossible to ignore why the current attribution models are flawed and do not reflect the business strategies and realities of most partner ecosystems. Traditional attribution models limit their focus to only those partners that resell a supplier's offerings. Resale revenue becomes the only recognized measure of partner success or impact. And as we look at the next slide, you'll notice that if you're looking at only those partners who provide resell, that's just two of the many partner types. And in fact, the only one that does that as a primary value is a volume reseller or DMR. Whereas even your solution providers, although they are reselling, they're also providing services and support and offer other value to your customers. So as we progress forward to the next slide, you'll notice that for most organizations, as they look at resale revenue, and you start moving forward to the further slide, that this is the only element that's actually captured in current attribution models. And that's a major challenge because as we build out all the values that are represented in the example I've just provided, you'll notice that this is just one of 10. So as they progress the slide forward, what you'll see is that resale revenue, again, is just 1/10 of the overall value that partners are providing across these ecosystems. It completely ignores other partner contributions to the business, such as partner product value, retention and renewal rates, referred and influenced revenue, as well as other key values that partners offer across this example ecosystem. So as we move forward and look at the next slide, one thing that I want to highlight is that the future success of partner ecosystem impact measurement requires that companies abandon their outdated attribution models. These only assign sourced revenue credit to the business. B2B organizations must embrace an advanced partner contribution methodology to fully recognize and quantify true partner value to the business. Based on what you have learned today, how significant do you feel the effort will be to measure partnership impact? We recently did an informal poll of a number of our clients and attendees of a current event we just did. And what we found is that over 80% of those that were participating indicate that they are currently holding themselves accountable to source attribution in order to measure impact of their partner ecosystem. Regardless of the scale of the effort, I suggest you bring in experts beyond your own teams. Just as a contractor or a designer will bring in an architect to understand the severity of an architectural issue when looking at remodeling or rebuilding, establishing an internal joint task force with appropriate cross-functional representation is going to be essential for this success. This should include your finance teams, operations, and other teams to help build out the bench of expertise and knowledge. You'll also help to educate them in the process so that they understand why the attribution model is actually not adequately representing the values and the impact that partners have on the business. Also consider surveying and assessing the situation to develop a methodology aligned to your current as well as your future partner ecosystem. If you're one of those companies that's looking at growth of their partners or expanding their ecosystem, start thinking intentionally about what that future ecosystem might look like and starting to determine what you might need to do in advance to set the right needs for measurement in the future. I also want to make sure that you're understanding the limitations. I do not expect any partner or channel leader to be able to tell the business how to do attribution. That's an issue for other parts of the business as well, right? It's led by marketing, by sales, by finance. However, what you can do is start to build out the right measurements for your part of the business and share those side by side with the attribution opportunities that you're already aligned to. So you can begin to address this challenge on your own. And again, showing it side by side will reveal where some of the lost insight is related to what value partners are truly providing to the business. So as a final thought, I wanted to have you consider a few action items to jumpstart your effort if this is something you're looking to approach within your own organization. First, you're going to need to establish that solid foundation. Many organizations may have some of the knowledge about who's involved in their partner ecosystem within their own sort of knowledge expertise, but having that documented becomes very powerful. So lay the cornerstones by documenting those partner business models and starting to align those to the key values. Determine the impact measures for those key values to create a partner ecosystem contribution and measurement blueprint that you can work with moving forward. And to achieve scale, this is where organizations like Impartner are going to be very valuable to you. You're going to need to invest in the right processes and systems to allow for automation of tracking, measurement, and reporting to ease the time and effort that it takes in the future in order to do this on demand. And finally, leverage your newly developed partner ecosystem contribution insights to elevate the awareness of the multidimensional impact of partners to the business. I find that one of the challenges many organizations have is that need to internally evangelize the value of partners and the partner ecosystem to the overall business and key functions that aren't familiar with why that's important and what that means to the organization.
Yeah, I love that. It's, it reminds me a little bit of a conversation that I had with a CEO at a prior company. We were pushing hard as a CMO. I care about demand generation. We were pushing hard for equal parts of demand generation from different channels worth of activity that we were doing. And I remember looking at some of the data, and he said, a third of our demand is coming from our email campaigns with a very low associated cost. And a third of our demand is coming from Google ad campaigns with a very high, several hundreds of thousands of dollars per quarter being spent. Let's stop doing the expensive stuff and just focus on email. And, and the dialogue was, it completely missed the interplay of all the different pieces of an integrated marketing campaign that come together to deliver on the result. And And it makes me think about what you're referring to here, which is, yes, it all contributes to revenue. If you're doing something that doesn't have a follow-on effect of driving revenue, maybe it's not the right thing to do. But that's not the sole metric to measure and track the interplay and the kind of subtleties of all the different elements of your partner community. So I think that's great. On when you talk about the different categories of partners that you work with, we've seen, I assume you've seen as well, a real explosion in the market recently in different types of go-to-market, co-sell, co-market. We used to call it through partner marketing. Now we call it for partner marketing and in spite of partner marketing. And there's just so many different roles that your partners play. And I love the categorizations that you use, because when that revenue generation is the sole focus, it does tend to downplay the contribution of partners in various parts of the overall ecosystem. And if your silver, gold, platinum tiering is done solely on revenue, you could have somebody languishing as a silver partner who actually is making a huge contribution to your overall company growth, but not recognized in the revenue that is attributed to them. And so, Impartner's position has always been, everybody in your ecosystem should be gold at something, or they don't belong in your ecosystem. Find the metric that they're contributing on, and then measure their success against the metric that that they seem to find the most value producing.
Yeah, I think that's a sage area of advice, because the reality is most business models are not purely on a resale motion. That's not the value they offer. In fact, it's becoming less and less that, right? Companies are looking for partnerships, and partners are serving buyer needs. And when buyers are looking to acquire solutions, they're looking for solutions to solve their business challenges. That is generally not a single product, right? So resale is not necessarily the most important motion in that experience. They're looking at solutions for the problem that may include multiple products, so your products and your partners, that include a service experience that is supporting their needs holistically, that is providing value throughout that life cycle, not just to transact, but all the way post that experience. And that may involve a combination of sometimes 4 to 5 parties, which may include your company, either direct or indirect, right? Your products, direct or indirect. And so I think looking at the ecosystem more holistically and really putting the buyer at the center, the customer at the center of that equation, helps to really provide some insight into what are those key values, and starting to think about partners more broadly. They're not just reselling. Some are, that is maybe their unique business model. But again, as we saw in that example, which is very common for high-tech organizations, that example that was 1/10 of the value that was provided at a simplified standpoint in terms of what was really being offered throughout the ecosystem and how to measure the success of that.
Yeah, and that's true both for the partners in your ecosystem as well as for the company itself. We see all the time research from Forrester and from others that talk about all the different touch points that a buyer will go through on their journey. And so many of those early on in their process involve the partner community. So enabling that partner community, the quote that we have on this slide right here talks about trying to enable partners of all types at every touch point along that customer journey to have the content, to have the expertise, to have the knowledge around your technology and your solution to help try and move those deals forward. So let's move ahead. The next slide, we talk about one of the key values that Impartner brings to the table in this, which is what we refer to as a closed loop demand management system. And the way we talk about this is partners throughout the ecosystem playing different roles in being able to track and progress funnel and progress revenue, and being able to have tools that help manage and track that and report on that in an intelligent way, make it so easy for you to do the type of attribution that we're talking about. Different roles were played, different values were added, and at the end of the day, there's a revenue production that happens, and it gets recognized throughout that entire closed loop ecosystem for what was being generated. If you go on to the next slide, we found some really interesting data in one of the Forrester pieces that they've done. This is their B2B marketing survey that was done, where decision makers, particularly in the marketing space, since it was a marketing focus on the research, they do turn to that partner ecosystem as the primary growth driver for their business moving forward. And again, that's not just in revenue production, but in branding and in up leveling overall organizations. And so it's so important for people to embrace and maximize the result that they're able to generate through working with ecosystem partners.
Well, I think
Um,
this is extremely exciting for those of us that are in partner marketing or channel marketing roles, or just in partner or channel roles in general, is that for a long time we were the only ones that cared. So if you had partner or channel in your title, you were really focused on the understanding the ecosystem, and really knew insightfully what was happening and why that was important to the business, the overall business. But it really generally wasn't understood beyond, above or beyond those organizations. So this data point is really exciting. This is the first time we've seen actually the CMO, right? The B2B marketing leaders globally recognize and start to identify as the top priority for them in the next 12 months, that the awareness that B2B revenue and growth requires the partner ecosystem. And so this actually gives us, I think, not only some validation of the importance of B2B, of ecosystems to B2B value chain, but also some recognition that how essential it is, and perhaps some support for those organizations that maybe historically been sort of felt like they were doing it on their own in an island within the organization.
Yeah, we do definitely feel like in the last maybe 5, maybe more years, it's been a real coming of age of the indirect ecosystem. As I think marketers seek to reach into that kind of dark portion, that dark unknown portion of the customer journey, and realize that they don't have as much impact there as they think, but their ecosystem does, and enabling the ecosystem has become a real high priority for marketers, as such as myself. On the next slide, I just threw a couple of the logos for companies that we have that have used our stuff. We call them emerging companies, but if you look through the names of them, you'll see that many of them are already emerged. So Impartner works with companies all shapes and sizes. We try and be a good partner for you as you're building out the strategy behind it. We do have a lot of customers, to Kathy's point from earlier, that come to us and say, hey, we're looking for a solution. Well, what are your strategic objectives that you're trying to accomplish? Well, we just want to have a portal set up, so we do try and work with them and with partners that we have to consult with them on what are the strategic metrics that you're trying to achieve, what are the goals that you're working towards, and then we've got some great solutions to help with that. So you may see some companies on here that you recognize. A lot of times people look at this and feel a sense of despair that the slide is just too full and there's no room for more logos. I just promise you right now, we're happy to fit your logo on that slide as well. I did put a case study on here in case you're interested. This is a customer of ours that is about a $5 billion customer based in Ohio. And I know 30 weeks may seem like a long time, but to have deployed fully the solution, have onboarded as many as 12,000 partners across 5 regions and 17 languages, and then to have them say in their own words that within the first year after implementation, they had pulled $800 million worth of deal registrations. It's a great case study. It's available on our website. We'd love for you to check it out. And then finally, we just finished some research that we did with Forrester on a total economic impact analysis. Forrester does a good job of interviewing our customers and tracking the costs associated with deploying the solution, as well as the benefits with deploying the solution. And they boil it down into a really nice report that shows on average a 296% return on the investment over a 3-year period. If you want to scan that barcode, it'll take you to the page on our website where you can download that TEI, that total economic impact analysis. Kathy, I want to thank you one more time for the insight on this. We always look to Forrester to have a great methodology for helping people categorize, track, and really, I think, grow the results across all different metrics of their channel ecosystem. So thank you one more time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave, for the opportunity. And as I mentioned, this is an area that we are extremely passionate about jointly. So it's always a pleasure.
Good. And for the rest of you, thanks for your time today. We appreciate you spending 50 minutes with us. And we hope that we've made it worth your while. We'd love to have you reach out to Impartner if you have questions or comments. And we will make the presentation available on our website for people to download, stream, and view later on. So Thanks again for your time, and we hope you all have a great day.